Time for Type 40, your Doctor Who podcast from the Spacebook for the Fandom Podcast Network, with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks, and regular designated driver here on our free-speaking, big-thinking show for everyone. Yes, this is the one for you, whatever decade or century you started watching, reading, or listening along to the ongoing adventures of our hero, Doctor Who. We talk about it all right here, and who knows, there could even be a laugh or two along the way. It's Doctor Who's 60th anniversary year, so come and step into our TARDIS here on Type 40. Hello, welcome. Type 40's rematerializing here with another great conversation. The Who community itself is blessed with an abundance, isn't it, of great personalities, and some may be quieter than others, but there are always lots of great stories to be told, and we're happy to be bringing you one of those this time. Yes, this is where Simon and I caught up with the mayor of Whoverville. I know, yes, that's Stephen Hatcher, ahead of the 14th event happening in Derby on the 2nd of September 2023. We're gonna be there, so we had to just butter up Steve just a touch, didn't we? So we're gonna be there, and it's gonna be fun. Whatever happens, it's gonna be fun. He's materializing in a moment, and that's after I remind you that if you'd like to do some real-time traveling of your own, each and every edition of this show, past, present and future, is just a tap or two away on the device of your choice, but only if you know exactly where to look. We're really proud of the playlist full of reviews, previews, interviews, geek outs and deep dives with all our regular panelists and some pretty awesome guests. We know there's something for every fan over at type40.podbean.com. More about that a little later on, and we'll be making contact, as always, with the matrix of all knowledge that we call the Fandom Podcast Network for a word about all the other treats for the ears on offer from all the other shows over there. Okay, no more time or space to waste. Whoverville 14, it's nearly here, everybody. So let's hear the inside story itself from the man who knows. Yes, we're coming towards the tail end of summer 2023 now. And I think most of us are sort of back from our holidays. I haven't been anywhere yet. I've been under starters orders the entire time. But Simon, he's been away, and he's back with me right now to talk about one special date coming up on the calendar very, very soon. Hi, Simon. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here. Yeah, I've had a nice holiday away, but this is coming up to my favourite time of year now, because autumn is traditionally Doctor Who time, isn't it? Because the new season would always start in September. Historically, over the past few years as well, September has always just happened to be the month when a certain event always takes place, not a million miles away from me, that I've always really, really enjoyed going along to. That's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, the Doctor Who calendar is full of these sort of red letter days, I suppose, for fans, aren't they? And some of them, they can be out in the wilds, can't they, where fans get together, all jump on a coach and head out to, for example, Aldbourne or somewhere like that, and pile into some pub. Heaven knows what the locals think. But the other flip side to that is probably where they descend in their masses on some really slick venue in some amazing gleaming city and chew the fat or just sit in awe as the legends of Doctor Who from the screen and from audio and print, or impart wisdom to their eager ears. That's the mainstay of Doctor Who sort of convention going, I suppose. Is that what you'd call it? Conventioneering, convention going?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been going to conventions as a convention goer since 1983, and they're just great fun. If anybody's not been to a convention yet, you need to get to one, because they're just, as a Doctor Who fan, they're just brilliant fun. And there just isn't, seriously, I've said this many, many times in the past, I don't think at the moment there is a better convention out there than the one that we're going to talk about today. They're brilliant, brilliant events.
Of course, we talk about fun. I mean, it's all fun, but we would say that because we just turn up at these events. It's all put together for us, isn't it? So it's going to be fun for us. Imagine the poor soul who's put this all together and is there flying by the seat of his pants, hoping that it all connects. Everybody's where they should be. I'm glad that's not my job. but I know a bloke who has got that job. He's right here with us now. It's the organizer and director of Hooverville, no less. Stephen Hatcher, welcome to Type 40.
Thank you. Well, if I am flying by the seat of my pants, at least I can say I've got very large pants. So it
helps.
It tends to work. Yeah.
Oh God, we've gone groinal already, Simon.
Oh no! I'm on the other end. But that's what the seat is on the other side. You're fine. It's not groinal.
Well, it's lovely to have you here anyway, Steve.
Right,
I'd like to say the show isn't well, I'd like to say the show isn't always like this, but it absolutely
is. But it always is.
So we are within sniffing distance, like the Bisto kids. We can smell, can't we? Hooverville 14. That's what you're here to talk about. So, Steve, how excited are you about this upcoming event?
Yeah, excellent. Just to correct just a tiny bit, it's not always in September. It's always the Saturday after the August bank holiday.
Okay.
So it's that precise weekend. In fact, next year for Hooverville 15, we just drift back with the moon into August again, and it'll be on August the 31st next year. So, but this year, 2nd of September in Derby, and I'm not even going to bother plugging it because we've sold out. But
which is
there
a brilliant position to be in, let's be honest.
So I can stop boring you with trying to sell tickets. But yeah, well, it's great. Yeah,
I mean, it really is interesting to get you on here because we're not here to promote Hooverville and try to sell tickets at all, which is a brilliant position for you to be in. It's just nice to be able to talk about it without having to worry about plugging anything. We can say what we like.
Yeah, and we've. I'm not entirely surprised we've sold out this year because you're right. We have often sold out, not absolutely every year, and
most years you sell out.
Yeah, well, we've been picking up again since the pandemic. I mean, obviously it was a bit slower around the time of the pandemic. We only missed 1 year. We only missed 2020, but we were about 21. But we've actually sold. We've put on more tickets this year.
Okay.
Yeah. We're actually selling 300 tickets. We've sold 300 tickets for this year, so we've increased what we consider our capacity.
So that means you basically increase the capacity, so more people can get there than were there before. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. Well, we've learned over the years that not everybody wants to be in the same place all at once. Now, if everybody wants to pile into the main cinema, well, they're not going to be able to all at once. But that just doesn't ever happen, so it's fine. So it's nice not to be able to turn away quite so many people, but even despite all the warnings of we're nearly selling out and don't bother asking for just one more ticket, once they're sold out, I'm still getting messages
room for a little one at the back, all that kind of
stuff. I'm getting all that, and I'm getting
and you can't do it.
We can't do it.
But it is funny because this is why I always think of Hooverville as selling out, because it's always around about this time of year when we're about a month away from Hooverville that we start getting the messages on Facebook saying, "Oh no, I've missed Hooverville again," because and historically, certainly in recent years, since I've been going to Hooverville, which is probably about 7 or 8 years now, it just always does seem a remarkably popular event, doesn't it?
Well, it's very gratifying. It really is, and we've got a wonderful venue at Quad.
It is.
It's a lovely place. I mean, yeah, there you go. There's Quad. It's starting to. Yeah, they are desperately short of money at the moment to do some refurbishing and all that sort of thing. So I don't want to tell you everything's absolutely wonderful there at the moment, but it's still a wonderful, wonderful place. And anybody who can make a donation to Quad while they're there at Hooverville, that'll be very gratefully received. So we've got a wonderful venue, and I know some of our regular attendees who come not particularly because it's Hooverville, but they come because it's an excuse to come to Quad. I don't know another place like it. Every city should have a Quad. It's an art centre, it's a cinema, it's a meeting place, it's a cultural venue, it's an art gallery.
Is it a little bit like the MAC, the Midlands Arts Centre at Cannon Hill in Birmingham?
Do you know, I've not been there. You'll tell me whether it is.
Yeah, I've been to both, and yes, I can say yes, it is similar to the MAC. Okay. It's the same kind of thing. But one of the things that I love about the Quad, and then this spills over into the sort of the ethos of Hooverville as well, which again is why I've always praised it so highly. Is it's a very intimate little venue. It's got everything you need. It's modern. It's very spacious, but it's just really, really nice the way it's laid out. The different floors, the different levels, it's all very, very easily accessible and with easy distance of each other.
And even when there's a lot of tickets sold, it doesn't ever feel too crowded. It feels fine. I know recently they did a Japan day, and they closed the building for it. They exclusively allowed people into that event, and they had 400 odd people there for that, and that was a great success. I don't see us doing that with Hooverville. We were offered it, but we were offered we'll shut the building for you, but we'd have to sell 400 tickets, and we turned that down. Actually, I'm quite sure we could have sold another 100 tickets.
Yeah,
but we said no. We want to keep the character of the place. We want of the event. We want to keep the character of Hooverville, which is quite. It's the sort of convention where you're wandering around and you bump into Matthew Waterhouse or Sophie Aldred or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's, as I say, that's one of the things that I've always loved about it. It just feels like a bunch of friends who have got together, rather than being some events that you can't get within touchy distance of. I remember that a couple of years ago, I literally bumped into Eric Sayward as he was coming up the stairs. I was going to, and I had a couple of minute conversation with him.
Excellent.
And it is that kind of event. It's got a really, really nice, friendly feel about it, as opposed to a corporate feel.
Yeah, absolutely, because we, the Hoovers who set it up and organise it, and we have people helping out with our event and our crew and the rest of it from all over the country these days. But the core is still members of the Hoovers group who were and still will be the Derby local Doctor Who group, founded in 1999, and I got involved in 2000 and started running it in 2001. So we are a local group. We're a group of fans. We're not in there to make the money. In fact, the particular arrangement we've got for Whoville, it's not far off, I would imagine, being unique for a convention, is that as the Hoovers, we don't sell the tickets, we don't pay for the guests, and we don't look to make money on it. How it works is that it's our event, it's the Hoovers event, but the Quad give us a budget. The people at Quad give us a budget to pay for guests and expenses and the rest of it. Quad deal with hotels and things like that, so that's a weight off our mind there as well. And they sell the tickets and keep the ticket revenue. And the only money that we as a group make during the day is on our own little stall where we're selling secondhand tat, and we get a bit of a cut of photos, but we don't take anything from autographs, and we don't take anything from ticket revenue. So we're not there to make money. We're there to have a good day, and we're fortunate that Quad takes the financial risk, and puts the hand in the pocket and pays for the guests and so on.
So it's all started out of a local group. There used to be a lot of Doctor Who local groups attached to the Appreciation Society and independent groups as well. It was something that I think most cities and a lot of towns had in the 80s and the 90s, wasn't it? Yeah. And out of that was born this convention that now this is your 14th event. So how on earth did it come to life? Who had the initial idea to put on a convention?
That is a very difficult question. The group was set up in 1999, as I say, and I started running it in 2001. So
it's a big leap, isn't it? So let's get together and maybe talk about a few old episodes, have a cup of tea, why don't we do this?
Yeah. Well, when I took over the group, there were regularly 20 to 30 people turning up at a monthly meeting to sit round and have a quiz and talk about Doctor Who and the rest of it. And we never met up in a pub. We always met up in a little arts centre or something like that. So we had that space and the ability to do activities amongst ourselves. And when I took over, I was very keen right from the start that we try and get some guests. And we started off I suppose reasonably small, but quite quickly. We had writers and we had Big Finish people and things like that, and people who were prepared to come for expenses rather than for a fee. And we started attracting more and more people coming to those events on a Friday night, an evening with, and they were hugely successful. They were really good. We'd never made any money on them, but they were hugely, because we were selling tickets for £2-3 a time, you know. And then I was very late going to conventions. I only started going to conventions when I was about 42. So, you know, because I'd always thought, yeah, no, it'll be full of all those weirdos, and I can't be bothered with
He
any
means
of
us,
that.
Simon. He means
I
us.
do.
Okay.
I actually do. But I quickly found out that wasn't the case. Now, how would that have come about? So, I think the first. Oh yeah, no, right. So I met Annika Wills at a convention,
Okay.
and I just broached the subject with Annika. Would you be able to come up to one of our meetings? We wouldn't be able to offer you a fee, but we could do expenses. And she said straight away, well, I won't do it. Can you not save up some money? Can you not put some money together? So we did. We put some money together with doing raffles and selling some secondhand stuff and all that sort of stuff until we got enough to offer Annika a fee. And in those days, in the early 2000s, you could get people who'd been in starring roles in Doctor Who for relatively little money. I mean, the ambition was quite low in those days. It's post 2013 and the 50th anniversary when people started asking for bigger fees, and fair enough, they have a living to make. I don't have an argument about that. I have an argument about some of the fees that some of the big stars charge at some of the big events, but that's a different matter altogether. And they only charge those fees because people are prepared to pay them. So I suppose they're pleasing some people, and that's fine.
You're catering to a different audience.
We are. I mean, of course, we're very realistically, we know we will never get the new series Doctors or Companions to our event. That's not going to happen. But for the most part, we can get classic series Doctors. We can get classic series Companions. So anyway, Annika Wills. So she came and did a Friday night meeting for us in Derby, and that was all lovely and went very well. And then at the next convention I was at, Annika was there, and so was Sophie. So Sophie Aldridge. So I asked Annika to introduce me to Sophie, and Annika not only introduced me, but gave me a big recommendation as well. So Sophie came. So it just sort of built up like that. Yeah, it did, and we'd been doing that for 9 years. By the time we got into 2009, 2008, 2009, and yeah, I mean, we were sitting down in a pub as it happens, and we just looked at each other and we said, we should do a convention, shouldn't we? We've got all these contacts with people. We should just try it out and do a convention. Yeah.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
What's the worst thing that can happen? So long as we don't have to put our hands in our pockets ourselves is the key thing. Let's think of a way we can do it without having to pay for it, which we did. We came up with that. And we looked at each other and said, well, what should we call it then? Now, this was not long after the series 3 of season 3 of Doctor Who, series 3 on television, and the victory of the Daleks and evolution of the Daleks, and what was it called? Not victory of the Daleks, Daleks in Manhattan, evolution of the Daleks, that one. And
so this was Doctor Who boom time. It was the biggest show on TV, wasn't it? Bar none.
Too right it was. But more significantly, in that particular story, it featured Hooverville.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of those camps. Where homeless people lived in New York. And so,
in the Depression,
hugely tastelessly, we looked at each other and said, immediately, 3 or 4 of us all together said, Hooverville.
Hooverville, because you are the Hoovers.
Yeah, because we were the Hoovers, absolutely. And our design genius, Andrew Mark Thompson, if I remember rightly, had already taken a still of Hooverville from the show and stuck a W on the. It wasn't
brilliant.
That wasn't by much by his later efforts compared to his later efforts, but it done that. So we were there. And then one of our chaps, his mum was working at a local steam railway centre at Ripley, north of Derby.
Oh, yeah.
And said, go and talk to them. They want to do different sorts of events. So we went and met his mum and the person who ran the place as well. And it's yeah. So we came to an agreement we would do it there. Oh, blimey, yes. So Ripley was a bit out of the way. We decided we wanted to do it on a Sunday, which probably wasn't a great plan, but it meant people travelling to Derby and then an hour bus journey out of Derby to get to Ripley if they were on public transport. So it was a lovely, lovely place to do a convention. What we used to do is people would arrive at one end of the steam railway line and then catch a steam train to go down the other end of the line where we had the convention in the engine set.
Brilliant.
So that was lovely.
A lot of Doctor Who fans are into trains as well, Steve.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the big memory is of John Leeson on the footplate driving the steam engine the second year we did it. So that was tremendous. But okay, so we did it in the first year. We called on a lot of favors from people. They didn't know us anything, but we did ask for favors from people, and all sorts of people came for nothing and were great, or for not very much. And we also put our hand in our pockets and got Colin Baker to come for that first one, which was tremendous. We've had Colin 3-4 times now, and he's been brilliant every time we've had him. 3 times, I think. He's been brilliant every time we've had him. Great guest. So that was fine, that first one. We got about, from memory, something like 69 people there, which was fine. It was about what we expected. And again, same deal as now. The venue sold the tickets. We just made what money we could on the day. So that was great. So we immediately said, right, we're going to do it again next year. And the following year we got there, and what we had to do at that particular venue, we had to go on the Saturday and sweep the engine shed and set up the chairs and put the stage up and all that sort of thing. And we got into the engine shed, and there was a diesel locomotive being spray painted down the end of it, fumes throughout the place. And we'd been promised this engine shed to ourselves. So we said to the guys at the railway, we said, just one tiny detail. That won't be here tomorrow, will it? Oh, yes, they're painting that all day tomorrow as well. So there were people, honestly, floating out on clouds of fumes.
Yeah, the fumes would have been like, whoa.
It was horrific. It was horrific. So that wasn't great. But we'd had by that second year, I think we had about 130 people, something like that. We'd more than doubled the attendance of the previous year. So we had to keep the big doors open all the time, and all sorts of people were wandering in who hadn't got tickets, who just happened to have come to the railway. So, I don't know. And then to make things worse, the steam railway people had all fallen out with each other.
Oh, brilliant.
So one end of the line wouldn't speak to the other end.
Oh, my life.
Steam wouldn't talk to diesel, and they both looked down on narrow gauge. And the people in the cafe hated everybody.
Oh, my God.
So we said, I don't know. Yes. So our guests. Yeah, the only place you can have as a green room this year is that signal box there.
Wow.
So we sat them down in this tiny little signal box, and we'd arranged for refreshments at lunchtime. And I think we had about 10 guests, and we had one tiny little plate about so big with about half a dozen sandwiches on it. So how embarrassing. But anyway, so by that stage, Quad had opened in Derby, and we'd got a contact at Quad, Adam Marsh, who's still there now. He's one of the main men at Quad. And we went and spoke to him about it and said, how about next year? How about instead of doing it on a steam railway place, lovely though it is, in the middle of nowhere, let's do it right here in the centre of Derby on a Saturday, and Quad can make some money on the deal. So we've been there ever since. We've been there since 2011. So that's been terrific.
And did you think back then that you would still be going all these years later? You'd still be pumping these out.
Well, it just after every convention at the end of the Saturday, I always sort of go, not again. No, this is it. But that only lasts normally about a day, 2 days, and then I'm starting to look forward to next year. And I've already booked my first guest for next year, for 2024, for Whoverville 15. So yeah, the thing that does concern me a little bit is I turned 65 this year, and I'm not ready to hang up my sonic screwdriver just yet, but Another 5 years, I'll be 70, and I don't know whether I'll be wanting to do it then. But we have a succession plan, and we've spoken to somebody who we hope will be prepared to take the convention on. He said he will, and do it his way, not do it our way, but do it his way. So Hooverville will be able to go on into
Steve,
the future. I hope.
are you suggesting that the moment has been prepared for?
That's about it, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. But it's not the end just yet.
The watcher is in the other room.
Absolutely. I should mention two people actually, because I don't do this by any means all on my own. By any means, that first one at the railway, I'm going to mention the late Robbie Langton, who was a great friend of ours, who was a member of the Hoovers group.
Yeah,
who was very much. Did you know Robbie, Simon?
No, but I knew of him and I followed him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Robbie was a polymath and a bit of a genius, and he was wonderful company. And he was very much involved with me in setting up the first Hooverville. Sadly, Robbie died in June 2009, just a couple of months short of the first Hooverville. So he didn't quite live to see it, which is a great shame.
Mm-hmm.
And the person since then who's been absolutely with me all the way organising Hooverville is, as I mentioned earlier, Andrew Mark Thompson, who is a genius of design, and who is he has a great talent actually for telling me to calm down and behave myself and just think a bit seriously about this. So it's when I get carried away with silly ideas about what we can do.
And
but
sometimes that's the best sort of relationship, isn't it? You need somebody to come up with the crazy mad ideas, and somebody else to say, okay, we can do this, but we can't do that.
But Andy also has great ideas himself. I mean, recently we did the Novel Experiences event with celebrating the Virgin New Missing Adventures and the BBC EDA and PDA books, and that was absolutely not my idea. That was Andy's idea, and then Adam Marsh at Quad's idea, and they'd been saying to me for ages we should do that, and I'd been poo-pooing it and saying no, it wouldn't work. And it was one of the most enjoyable events we ever did at the end, once I finally caved in and said, yeah, let's go for it. But yeah, so was the question, am I surprised that we're still going? Before that it was, well, I don't know, to be honest, because you go into these things and see what happens, don't you? But it's always been fun.
Have there been any points where maybe in the middle of the actual day of the convention itself, where you've kind of thought, oh, why are we doing this? I can't get, there's just too many problems, and I wish we'd never come up with the idea. Has there ever been those moments?
No.
Wow.
There was one year when I was in the middle of a horrid bout of vertigo, and I had to rely on people to come and drive me over to the convention and bring me home afterwards. Yeah. And I spent most of the day just sitting down in the green room. But no, it was fine, and it's the day itself is usually not a problem. It is the build up to it. There was one year when a couple of years ago only, when at the end of the day for the packing up time, everybody just disappeared into the woodwork and left me and Andy to sorting away. I had words after that, gentle words. But,
So, Steve, looking at the sort of the guest list that you've got for this kind of year, you must. Is this kind of a wish list of the kind of guests that you would like there? Are there people that do you sort of come up with a list of the kind of people that you'd like to get there, and then it's a case of contacting them? How do the guests come about?
Yeah, pretty much. It's what we wanted to do. We've never had more than one doctor at Whoville before. I think I said earlier, but this year for the 60th anniversary, we really wanted to pull out all the stops. We were aware that there were other events planned for the same weekend as us, so we wanted to make sure that our regular attendees and people who might have been thinking of coming to Hooverville were aware that we were around, and we were not going to take it easy, and we were going to put on the very best convention we possibly could. So we've never had either Sylvester,
because you've got the subtitle there, A Festival of Doctors,
and that's one of Andrew Mark Thompson's ones as well. Yes, one of his flourishes.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Absolutely. We'd never had McCoy or McGann before for Hooverville. We'd had them both for Big Finish days because
Yeah.
we've in past few years we've organised Big Finish Day with Big Finish, but we'd had all the other doctors that we were likely to be able to get. So we'd had Peter Davison, we'd had Colin Baker. And I suppose that's about it, isn't it? Because, like I said before, we're not going to be able to be in the market to afford new series doctors. Tom doesn't travel anymore, so that's that. There we are with our doctors, and I'm very grateful to have worked with the ones we have worked with. But for several years, we've been trying to get hold of both McCoy and McGann. Okay, so it was Keith Barnfather actually who has been coming to Hooverville for a number of years and recording Mythmakers at Hooverville with some of our guests. He suggested to us that we make it a bit more formal this year and that we combine Mythmakers Live 3 as part of Hooverville with Hooverville. So that made it that little bit easier to get Sylvester McCoy, who we've tried to get several times but not been able to do so. And Sophie Aldred, who we know really well, who's been loads of times anyway, so that's no problem. And what's going to happen for the Mythmakers Live thing is Sylvester is going to interview Sophie and Sophie is going to interview Sylvester. So that's going to be a lovely little thing. Paul McGann came to Big Finish Day the last time we did a Big Finish Day. That would be last year, springtime last year. And I spoke to him that day and said, look, we'd really like to get you up for our convention at Hooverville. And then between times after then and before now, he changed his convention booker, his convention agent, but that hasn't proven a problem at all. Paul had mentioned to the new guy that he'd already penciled it in fact, on his calendar that he was going to come to Hooverville. So that was great. We're very grateful that he's coming. He's bringing his son as well. We've just announced today that Sonny McGann, who was formerly known as Jake McGann, is going to come as well. I think it's his first convention appearance, but he's going to be there as a sponsored guest as well. So there we go. And it just seemed a really nice opportunity. Having got those two doctors, well, why don't we just get all of the Big Finish doctors we can get as well, because we know them all. As I say, we worked with Big Finish on Big Finish Day. They were all at the last Big Finish Day, and Michael Troughton we've worked with in the past as well. He's been to Hooverville, so we've got all the Big Finish doctors as well. So how lovely is that? So 7 doctors,
and at the end of the day, it is the anniversary year, 60th anniversary, so it does seem completely appropriate to have as many doctors as
and the person I didn't mention there, and I must do, is Matthew Waterhouse as well, who again, he did an evening with the Hoovers some years ago. He did Hooverville, and we know Matthew, and one of our our lead interviewer, let me put it that way, is Robert Dick, who we've since the very first Hooverville, he's been a brilliant support to us, and Robert is a good friend of Matthew as well. So Robert was able to talk to Matthew. And
Robert is the regular interviewer, isn't he, for the Mythmakers range of interviews now?
Yep.
Now they've got several, but more often than not, it's Robert, isn't it?
Robert is the lead man, isn't he? That's it. And for my money, he's the best convention interviewer around. I think he's absolutely superb. So we're immensely lucky that we've had Robert all these years working with us on Hooverville. Yeah, sincerely. Without Andrew Mark Thompson, without Robert, there wouldn't be a Hooverville, really. Yeah.
And Matthew Waterhouse, after 4 decades, he's kind of Doctor Who royalty as well.
Matthew Waterhouse is one of the people that I'm most looking forward to meeting on the day.
Well, Matthew, every so often he'll take a year or two off from doing it, and he's not done many events recently, actually. So it's really lovely that he's agreed to do that. And I actually, Matthew was the first person I booked for this year, and I contacted him August last year. And said, look, I know it's a long way ahead, but can we pencil it in? And we'll announce you, and we'll announce subject to work commitments. And if you have to pull it, you have to pull out. But would like to get the ball rolling now. And he was happy to do that. And there we are. So really looking forward to seeing Matthew.
Yeah, I must be honest. I've done many conventions in my years, and never happened to have been at
No?
one that Matthew's at. So
Michael Jaston as well is worth mentioning, because
yeah,
Michael
Michael
is
Jaston is very much worth mentioning.
absolutely. I mean, he's a proper British film star of
He's
film
a
and television
Yeah.
legend.
star.
He's a
Yeah,
legend.
of course
I
he is.
worked with Michael very many years ago. For 1 week, I was in one of my earliest jobs in television when I was a runner, and I spent a week driving Michael around Yorkshire
Oh, fantastic.
for filming
Fantastic.
on a kids' TV show, and he was an absolute gentleman. And it's one of those situations where you're trying to be very professional, but as a Doctor Who fan, you just can't help saying, "Oh well." I think at some point I seem to vaguely remember watching you in Doctor Who. I
He
think, but I
wouldn't
can't be
mind.
certain.
He wouldn't mind that in the slightest bit.
He didn't.
No, of
He
course not.
didn't.
No, he's a lovely man. He really is.
Yeah.
We've had him at Hoover's evening, and we've had him at Hooverville before. It would have been after our first time we had him up for Hoover's that I had a phone call out of the blue from Michael. I was just there when I got a phone call. Michael rang. Now I collect Wisden Cricketer's Almanac.
Oh, I can
That's
see
my
them. Wow,
collection of
yeah.
Wisden Cricketer's Almanac. I
Brilliant.
don't collect them anymore because I've got a full set. But yes, some of them are reprints, but even so,
It doesn't matter. Still counts.
I had a phone call out of the blue, and he said, "Hi, Steve. I've got a 1957 Wisden Cricketer's Almanac. Is it any good to you? You can have it if you want it." Now, you know that's sort of, I don't know, 20-30 pounds worth these days. And
Yeah.
I had to say to him, "Well, Michael, that is ever so generous, and thank you ever so much. But I've already got one of those." But that's the sort of fellow he is. He's generous. He's lovely.
Because he loves his cricket, doesn't he? Michael Jason loves his
absolutely does. Absolutely. We've always, when we've had evenings with, we've not done an evening with in a while, but whenever we did those, we've always taken the guest out for a meal either before or after. Michael insisted on paying for all our meals as well as himself, which you don't expect. You don't expect. But he's a very generous, friendly, kind, considerate
man. True gems. He is.
That's how you know that you're part of the experience that Michael has had, that it's a value, and he values you as a friend and as a colleague, I suppose. You've spoken a little bit about Keith Barnfather, and he's been supporting your events for several years. But you've also got a very special relationship, haven't you, with Big Finish too, because you run their Big Finish Day, don't you? And obviously there's lots of Big Finish names, people we will associate, we will have heard as the Doctor in particular at Hooverville 14, aren't there?
It's been useful to us. It's been great. It's a little bit complicated because we ran the last 3 Big Finish days at Quad, but after the last one, Jason Hay-Gallery, who I'm sure you know that is, said to us, "Well, look, what I want to do is I want to do the next one down south," and so because apparently Derby is in the frozen north, I don't know, but anyway. So he wants to look. He lives down in Buckinghamshire or somewhere, doesn't he? So that is that. Yeah. Okay. So we are the North Team. Bless. I like Jason ever so much. I want to do the next one down south to allow poor Southerners to be able to come to Big Finish Day, and then we'll alternate between somewhere down south and you. And I said that's absolutely fine. It's their Big Finish Day is their event. We organised it on their behalf. We hosted it, absolutely, and we will be very happy to do so again in the future. I had a conversation just the other week, not with Jason, but with someone else at Big Finish, and I am told that is still absolutely the plan, that they'll do a convention down south somewhere, Big Finish Day down south, to which my response was, if you need any help doing that, getting that off the ground, stewarding it, whatever, just give us a call. We're there. And after that, we'll come back to Quad. So I'm hoping that will happen because Big Finish Day has always been a terrific day to do.
And you've got other stuff going on at Hooverville 14 as well. There's a cosplay competition, isn't it? Tell us about doing a book launch. So there's lots of stuff going on.
And Keith is launching his latest DVD as well, his latest real time. Well, of course, the Tell Us book launch is a bit special for us, to be honest, because one of the authors who's involved in that is our very own Andrew Mark Thompson, whose first book, This Is a Fake, has been an absolute sensation over the course of the summer. There's been so much praise for Andy's book. If people follow Andrew Mark Thompson on Twitter and so on, they would have seen the nonsensical stuff he does.
I've heard the name. I think I've seen some of his work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very worth seeking out. It's mad. It's an alternative universe of Doctor Who and other TV memorabilia that never quite happened to exist. I suppose the most famous one was the Sapphire and Steel Ice Lolly with the stainless steel stick.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, of course.
Which ended up in Joanna Lumley's tour brochure because she thought it was they thought it was a real thing. But apparently, I mean, Andy investigated, and it turned out that she'd got an idea it wasn't true, but she was so amused by it that she wanted it in the brochure. Yeah.
Quite
so
right.
Andy's book is out from Tell Us, and I can't but recommend.
And is that officially launching at Hooverville?
Well, yeah, it's been out for weeks, but it's officially launching at Hooverville. Yeah. And Andy will be there, and Alistair McGowan will be there to sign the fanzine book. And Darryl Joyce.
Oh, I was going to get that, so I might as well wait until I'm at Hooverville now and get it signed as well.
Yeah, well, if you'd bought it beforehand, you could bring it along, and so I'm sure they wouldn't mind. And Darryl Joyce, the Illustrated Journey, is also Darryl Joyce.
Because this is one of the beauties of Hooverville is people can go and get autographs. I know that you have some promotional guests that some sponsored guests. Which I think you have to pay for autographs for those people, don't you? But the Hooverville guests are free autographs, aren't they?
Well, yeah, okay. Well, when we started Hooverville, we always, because we're of the tradition of old time Doctor Who conventions where guests didn't get paid very much and autographs were always free. We always set out with that in mind, that we wanted all autographs to be free. Over the years, that just hasn't been realistic anymore because guests expect to charge for it. Guests expect to be able to sell their autographs, sell their photos, whatever. And that's fair enough. So, but what we said, what I've said some years ago, and I'm still absolutely sticking to this, is that any guest, any official Hooverville guest who is at Hooverville will give at least one free autograph to each attendee. Now, I reckon that's probably enough to have one free one.
I think so. That's fair.
If you want beyond that, the guests are free to charge, and if people want more, I think it's only fair that they should. I
think it's totally fair. As somebody who's been in a queue and seen somebody in front with a pile of target books this big, and you're thinking, I'm never going to get my autograph. So I think one autograph, totally fair. Anything beyond
what we always used to do about that, we would say that if it was busy, the steward may ask you to get a couple signed and then go to the back
and then move on.
But yeah, and that worked quite well. But as I say, guests expect to be able to sell their autographs these days, but
I think the fact that attendees can still get one autograph is just brilliant.
Well, I've promised our attendees that I will never go back on that. That there will always be, as long as I'm running the convention, there will always be one free autograph per official guest. And I know of one Doctor Who celebrity, and I'm not going to mention names, and it's entirely fair enough. It's up to them. They won't do free autographs at all. And so sadly, I've had to say, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to book that particular guest.
Because that's a man with morals.
Well, it's not about that. It's about playing fair by our customers and our friends who come to our convention.
And that ethos is what seeps through to the whole of Hooverville, which is why I've always praised it so highly, because you get that feeling the minute you walk through the door, and I always have done. And that's
the minute you walk in the joint.
Yeah, literally, it works. It does
I could see you were a man of distinction.
It works. It works in your favour, and that's another reason why I think it's just been so popular.
Your Shirley Bassey was a bit lacking there, Simon. To be fair.
So as well as the guests, the people, the names on the posters, and the things they get them sort of booking early and selling the thing out. You've also got the cosplay competition that you mentioned too, haven't you? And there'll be a dealer's room and all manner of the usual things that people expect when they go to conventions, which are so they're all communal, aren't they? That things that people can enjoy together with their friends, whether it's the people they've gone to the event with or people that they're meeting up with at the event who maybe they only see 2 or 3 times a year. They're Doctor Who friends.
I think that's why a lot of people come. Well, I know it's why a lot of people come to conventions, and I know there are people who come to Hooverville who don't go in the main hall, who will maybe go for the odd autograph, but the reason there is to meet up with their mates, and that's lovely.
It's really funny that you say that, because certainly the last few Hoovervilles I've been to, and I missed a couple during the pandemic and that. This is the first one I've been to since before COVID. But the ones that I'd been to up until COVID, as time went on, I was finding I was spending less and less time in the main hall and more time in the coffee shop, having a coffee with a mate, going around the dealer's room, standing chatting to somebody on the stairs. And I wasn't. It was really bizarre. I wasn't seeing a lot of the main guests, but I was really enjoying the time I was having there, because it was just so communal and so friendly.
It's what I do if I go to other people's conventions. It's what I do. I don't go to many other conventions these days, actually, because I tend to get the guests I want to see come for free to my convention.
Well, also, do you find that classic thing of when you go to a convention, you're always being picky? I wouldn't have done it like that. No, they've done that wrong. You must have those sort of thoughts.
Not too much. Look, the only convention I regularly, there's 2 conventions I regularly go to these days. There's Keith Barnfather's Mythmakers Live, as previously discussed, and there's the Capitol, the Dras convention, and both of those are very like Hooverville. They're very relaxed, very informal, very easy going. So
Capitol certainly is, in the way that Panopticon wasn't. Capitol is very much more intimate and relaxed, similar to Hooverville,
organised by a different group of people altogether from where we.
So obviously, with a festival of doctors, you've got Sylvester and you've got Paul, good friends and doctors there that everybody's seen on the screen. But you've also got a trio, haven't you, of other doctors? No, a quad at the quad of other doctors, some of which are going to be together, aren't they? On stage.
I think the word you're stretching for is quartet.
A quartet. That's it. I'll gloss over it. They won't have noticed. So this really is quite an event, isn't it? This is a lot of Time Lords, Steve.
It's 7 doctors, isn't it? It's 7, because Michael Jaston as the Valiant, of course, is the Doctor as well. Michael will absolutely tell you. I played the Doctor. He'll tell you.
Oh dear,
he did.
Put me in the dock. Put me in the dock for that, wouldn't he?
But yes, we've got the 4 big Finnish Doctors. We've got Michael Troughton, who of course has been on the TV series as well. He was in the episode last Christmas.
Yeah,
that's quite a dodgy character in that. But Michael isn't a dodgy character. He is lovely. So we've got Michael Troughton, who plays the 2nd Doctor for Big Finish, his dad's old role. We've got Tim Treloar, who plays the 3rd Doctor for Big Finish, and is absolutely great at that job as well. We have got Stephen Noonan, who is brilliant as, like I said, all brilliant, but he is as the 1st Doctor, and is one hell of a character. He is really an interesting man. He's very worth talking to.
Well, we do have some experience of that, because obviously Steve Noonan, he joined our show earlier this year. He's recorded several reviews with us and various other episodes of the show as well. We've been getting into the weeds of his fandom, and God, this man, as I'm sure any listener will know by now if you've heard those episodes, Stephen can really talk, can't he? He knows Doctor Who inside out.
Yeah, going back to Tim Treloar, of course, he's recently appeared on the BBC drama Wolf. So people will have seen him there. And someone else who's been on TV screens recently is the young man, and I mean young man, he's in his early 30s, who plays the War Doctor for Big Finish, and that's Jonathan Carley. He is extraordinary. This John Hurt voice that you hear on your Big Finish releases, it's the most accurate John Hurt impression. It's extraordinary.
It's extraordinary, yeah.
And you meet Jonathan, and he's this person. I say he's in his early 30s, but he looks like a sixth former when you meet him. He is so he is an extraordinary mimic. He really is. But he's more than that. He's recently been on it's a comedy on Friday night on BBC One, Parker's something.
This new one that's set in the 90s.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's in that. He's got a small role in that. So look out for him on that. Yeah, and he's great fun. And as I say, the most wonderful mimic. Yeah, so we're looking forward to seeing Jonathan again. Jonathan came to Hooverville before he worked with Big Finish, actually, oddly enough, because we used to get a little troupe of mimics who would come along and do a bit of a show for us on the Friday night beforehand.
I'd forgotten about that. I remember that now. You mentioned that. Yeah, that was a few years ago, wasn't it? Did you just stop doing those? Because they were brilliant.
They weren't able to come anymore. But yeah, they were very good, weren't they? Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah. It was Chris who does the second Doctor so brilliantly. And
they were so funny. Those were.
They were good. And Jonathan came with them one year as well. And of course, we didn't. It was just some young lad doing it with them and being brilliant. And of course, he's now the War Doctor. But he's not just a mimic, is Jonathan. He's a very fine actor as well. I know he's worked with Lou Jameson, who's coached him and helped him and helped him develop as an actor. And he carries off those War Doctor audios brilliantly. Cannot but recommend those. I mean, I know people say, "Oh, it's offensive to the original actors to No, rubbish. Why would you give up on these wonderful characters? Why would you give up on the War Doctor or the First Doctor or the Third Doctor just because the original actor is dead?" They didn't say, did they not? They didn't say when the original actor to play Hamlet died. They didn't say, "Oh, well, we can't have Hamlet anymore now, then, can we?" No.
The way I look at it is people can dip into them or dip out of them. Nobody forces them to.
Absolutely.
I'm very much of the same mind to you about it, Stephen. For me, they're characters that somebody created, brought to life. I suppose in the sense with the Doctors, it's slightly different from being a Hamlet or any kind of or a figure in a soap. Any of those kind of big figures, because they bring so much of themselves, don't they, to bring the character to life? But I think the same principle applies.
It does. They did bring a lot to them, to the creation of those characters. But so did writers and directors and producers and all sorts of other people, costume designers, makeup artists, the lot. It wasn't. The Third Doctor was not created by John Pertwee. He was created by a whole team of people. Possibly the most important of which might have been Derek Sherwin, or it might have been Barry Letts, or it might have been John Pertwee. But it wasn't just
an amalgamation of talent.
It's something. It's a subject that I view responses to are subjective rather than objective. I understand completely why some people, well, it's not for them, but in that instance, Simon, I agree with you. In that case, you don't have to part with your money, do you?
Exactly.
But don't turn around and say, therefore, Big Finish should not do this. Don't tell me what I should be enjoying.
Correct. Correct. No,
there's a rant.
Is that a soapbox, Steve? Have you been asked that a few times?
No, I got into an argument on Facebook about it.
Oh, just don't. It's best not to.
It really is.
You go down another hole altogether. Then, right. So you're off on holiday soon, aren't you? All of these ducks must be in a row. You're going to go off for a break, and you must be thinking: are you counting the days? Or are you just going to enjoy your time in the sun, knowing that you've got a lovely convention to open up for everybody and to share?
You're optimistic, thinking we're going to get sun in County Durham, because that's where we're headed. We're going to call into Neil Cole's museum in Alentejo, which will be great.
First time you've been?
Yeah, not been before. I mean, I know Neil, and Neil did a virtual tour of the museum on Zoom for Hoovers for us, which was great. And I met Neil at the Capitol a few years ago.
Another friend of the show. Hey, Neil, if you're out there.
Looking forward to that.
Treat, Steve. You will
very much looking forward to it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I saw Keith Banfather's DVD about it as well, of course,
Yeah.
so, which was very, very good. Yeah, so that would be good. But in terms of whether we're organised and things, well, we had a meeting this Monday because I said to Andy Thompson and Adam Marsh from Quad, I said, right, if there's anything we've forgotten, I want to know about it now rather than 2 days before Hooverville or whatever. I want to know now, so we know what we've got to get done over the next couple of weeks. And we're meeting again. It's complicated. I said we always have the weekend after the bank holiday, which always means the week leading up to Hooverville. The Monday is a dead day. You can't do anything. But we're meeting again on the Tuesday of that week. And then Andy Thompson and I will be doing all sorts of running around and sorting stuff on the Wednesday and Thursday. And then, and then people start arriving on the Friday.
And it's
Then
all
the
very,
magic
very
happens.
exciting.
Yeah, well, at least I hope they start arriving on the Friday, because on the Saturday there's a rail strike.
Oh.
So and all power and support to the RMT. But I hope people have taken that into account and are making sure that the travel.
As of time of recording, word is only just really getting around about that. So we'll do everything that we can on social media through our Type 40 pages.
But it's only on the Saturday. It's Friday is not affected, and Sunday there.
And I'm assuming. Do we know at the moment, are there bus replacements put on for the Saturday?
Oh, there won't be bus replacements. No.
Nothing
They're on strike. They're on strike. All
right, okay.
But there is the national travel. There are other ways of travelling out there.
Yeah.
But, it's the way it is. We had it for novel experiences as well. It coincided there as well, and good luck to comrades in the RMT with their struggle. I've been down on picket lines and the rest of it in another life. So there we are.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and I hope people will be able to get along.
People will find alternative ways. People are very resourceful. They'll be. I'm sure they'll be.
So they'll be rolling in on Friday or into Saturday, however they get into the event. And go on. What were you going to say? Sam?
No. I was just going to say it's good that it is on the Saturday rather than on the Friday. Rather than on the Friday and Saturday that the action is happening, because a lot of people do arrive on the Friday.
Yeah.
And of course, you're asking for trouble as well in another area, because you've only got invited Simon and myself, some of the Type 40 crew, along for Hooverville this year.
What were you thinking?
Well, you're not going to be alone, because we've got a chap from Radio Derby coming as well to interview people. Brilliant. And also our friend Martin Holmes, who does his show Vision on Sound on Fab Radio International, available also as a podcast, and he was there last year doing some interviewing, and so and you're going to be doing some as well this time, which is great.
Well, I have to say, Steve, we are so excited about being there, and thank you for inviting us along. We just really, this is just really so exciting for us, particularly for me, because I've been to Whoville so many times over the years, and so to finally be there now in a slightly different capacity, it's just brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it.
Right from the beginning of Hooverville, we were keen that Hooverville be a podcast friendly convention, because 2009 was sort of near the start of when podcasts were really taking off in this country. I mean, there'd been it was probably in the number of Doctor Who podcasts was probably in 3 figures still at that stage, as opposed to the many thousands there are then. I mean, there'd been American Who, hadn't there, from the States, and then there was the Who cast in this country was one of the first here, and then Siobhan Galachon got involved with what was it that there was Staggering Stories, and then Flashing Blade, both of which are still going, and we were very keen to get people involved from those the podcasts I listened to, basically the British ones. So we set aside a podcast room, and we made our guests available to be interviewed by podcasters, and that went brilliantly for a few years, good few years. But then we noticed that it started to drop off, and we were getting podcasters coming, but they didn't actually want to do any interviewing or anything like that quite so much.
We're going to bring the Jaffa cakes. We'll bring the mugs, and we'll bring our mouths. Type 40 Live will be absolutely live, at
Well,
Quad for
we'll also
Whoverville
be,
14.
we will be sort of going back to the flying by the seat of our pants. I think we will be doing
Yeah.
that. We're going to be making it up to an extent as we go along. We're not quite. That's how our podcasts are. They're a little bit on
That's
the
how it
hoof.
works.
That's how it
sort of
works.
how Hooverville works. It's not,
So
it's
that's
not
kind of
quite
how
how Hooverville works, but
that's how we'll be
sort
going.
of.
We'll sort of see what happens. It'll be what it'll be, and it's whatever it is. It's going to be perfect, and it'll be exciting.
I'm sure you'll have a great day. We'll do our best.
We will. I know that.
Well,
So please, if anybody's watching, come and say hello to us. Come and have a chat with us. We'll be doing vids from there.
But only if you've got a ticket.
Yeah, correct.
Just rolling off the streets.
Although
Yeah,
actually, I say that, but Quad is open on the day as well for people to come in and use the facilities. Well, not the facilities, because that's for people
that sounds...
but they can come in and go in the. They can use the cafe bar.
Sounds like a lady of the night. Oh God! Why do I say these things?
No, I don't know, but yeah, the building will be open, and we're quite open for people to wander into the dealer's room and all the rest of it if they want to. If they want to come and spend some money with their friends, then fine. But they won't get into the main hall or anywhere like that. But yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Stephen Hatcher, thank you for inviting us to Hooverville 14, and thank you for coming to speak to us about it as well on this edition of the show. This is Hooverville 14. It's on Saturday, the 2nd of September, 2023 at Quad in Derby.
Before we finish,
yes, go.
I haven't had my plug in yet.
Please plug
15.
Away. Yes.
15.
I was going to ask you about that next. Oh, these are so impatient, these guys. Go on. Hit us with it.
Go on, Whovill 15.
I haven't done any plugs. I've been very good, but this is my only one.
No, you've got to plug. You have to plug.
An exclusive. Can we claim this as exclusive, Steve?
Well, no.
I'm going to anyway. But...
well, I've already announced it. Whoverville 15 next year is back at Quad and is on the 31st of August. We've just drifted back into August next year. So that's that 31st of August, Saturday, Derby Quad. I have already booked my first guest. I will not be telling you now, but I will be announcing it at Whoverville 14.
Can't wait.
So, really? So you're going to announce it on the day? Wow. Brilliant.
And if obviously not everybody will be able to make it to Hooverville 14, they're going to hear about all this and they're going to get what they call FOMO, aren't they? Fear of missing out. FOMO. So what would you advise if they're thinking, oh God, I missed out on this again? How can they make sure that they get the first word on everything that's going to come for Hooverville 15 and anything that may stretch out into the future beyond that?
Most of our announcements are on our Facebook group. So it's, you ready? So yes, so we've got a Facebook. We have a Facebook group which has all the announcements and notes, and also there's the Hoovers website, which is hoovers.org.uk. Hoovers.org.uk, which is our new website because that's been completely redesigned and revamped by a good friend, Hoovers member. Graham Goff, who's done that for us, done a great job of actually giving us a proper website for the first time in many years. So happy with that. Yeah, there we go. And there's clips from previous Hoovervilles on there as well. So
just to rub it in even harder.
Well,
what they've missed,
and hopefully at least at Hooverville 14, some people who weren't able to make it this year will be able to get a little bit of a flavour of what it's like through our videos. So
that would be great. That would be great. And I'm pretty sure there'll be videos appearing on YouTube after Hooverville 14 as well of what's gone on because it's being filmed, and I know people who like to put it out there on YouTube.
Fabulous stuff. Well, obviously, Steve, we hope it all goes absolutely brilliantly. Enjoy your break.
Well, you'll see it if it doesn't.
We'll be there.
Could be very, very well in the middle of it. But yeah, again, Steve, thank you for your company. We can't wait for Hooverville 14. And congratulations on the success of everything you've accomplished from the Hoovers to Hooverville and Big Finish Day and everything else. It really is inspiring.
Every year before Hooverville, Andrew Mark Thompson and I look at each other and we say, this could be the year where we get found out. and every year after Hooverville, we look at each other and we say, we got away with it again. So here's to getting away with it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we're really looking forward to it. Can't wait to see you there.
Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blood of Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Yes, we've teased and tantalised you there again, and we can even clothe you too. There's merch to match all of those shows, including Type 40. If you head over to tpublic.com, search for the Fandom Podcast Network, and there you'll find a store full of all the team colours for all of those podcasts, on everything from phone cases up to T-shirts, and then enormous tapestries too. I think that's probably the biggest thing you can get. Although it wouldn't be surprising if there was something even bigger at tpublic.com. Treat yourself, treat your other selves. It's all goes to support the Fandom Podcast Network into the bargain, so everybody wins. And yes, thank you again to Stephen Hatcher and Simon Horton. Find Simon as ever on Facebook. They're running Doctor Who, The Whonatics, established all the way back in 1987, and a thriving community still on the biggest social media platform right there. So go and say hello. And yet that is the old girl starting up and calling time on this edition of Type 40. I'll be back with another one soon. Look out for that wherever you found this. It could have been at the dedicated home feed for Type 40. type40.podbean.com, or maybe we rolled up on the podcatcher of your choice: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Podbay, Amazon Music, all those places. Could be you found us on the Podbean app itself. That's so easy to use. Even I can use it. We're on YouTube, the world's largest streaming platform, here on the Type 40 channel, with dedicated video editions of every single podcast now, along with our sister show, Type 40 Live, our weekly magazine format Doctor Who live stream, completely raw, completely live, where anything can happen, anything can be said, and often is. Get all of that if you head over to the Type 40 channel on YouTube. We're still on the fabulous Fandom Podcast Network's master feed. Of course we are, loaded up with so many treats for your ears there. Never mind on the weekly. They've got it coming to you on the daily. So please consider a trip sideways in time for more quality shows from the FPN. Could you like to have your say about all of this or all of that? Why not reach out to us through our social media, Instagram and Twitter there at Type40Doctor Who, or email us type40doctorwho@gmail.com. And if you're feeling really, really brave, you can head over for some real-time extra-dimensional chit-chat in the Type 40 Facebook group. You have to be careful, but that's where you'll find regenerations upon regenerations worth of Doctor Who fans, the classic era, the new era, and the all-new era that's to come. It's all up for debate there, and lots of fun to be had in the Type 40 Facebook group with fans of all ages. So, yes, if you want to find the links to all things Hoovers and Whoverville, They're in the show notes and the description, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as the Spacebook, wheezing and groaning, ranting and raving about all things geeky inside and outside of the TARDIS in movies, TV, comic books, and whatever else takes my fancy, really. A lot of it's nostalgia, I won't lie. I think I'm getting more and more tired with the 21st century, but hey, if you get in touch with me over on there, maybe you can pull me back into 2023. I don't know if that one's worth skipping. You can show me where we can go, where we can set the coordinates for, to be sure of the best in movies and TV and comic books and all that geeky stuff that I love so much. Okay, yeah, that about covers it, I think. Whoverville 14 under starters orders as of time of recording. Can't wait to get there and see the fans and feel the atmosphere with Steve Hatcher and everybody else over there, his team, his crack team of conventioneers. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40. But yeah, that's it for another one. Maybe we'll see you in Derby on the 2nd. Happy Hooverville, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.